And we are actually exactly on time, so this is good. My role now is to wrap this up. And I'm going to wrap it up in about 10 minutes. If I can get this, there I go. And the question that I raised sort of rhetorically in the title of this final section is, does injury prevention work in real life? Or a 10-year story from Norway and perhaps a peek into the future as well. And you'll understand why. What we haven't done in this session, which is unusual for us, is to show you data from study after study, randomized controlled trials documenting that injury prevention programs reduce injury rate by roughly 50%. If you look at all the randomized controlled trials that have been published, interestingly, across most sports and even across injury types, so whether it's ankle sprains, hamstring strains, or knee injuries, they show a remarkably consistent effect of a reduction of approximately 50%. And the types of programs we're talking about then are the types of programs that Grete has shown. The two regions that separate themselves from this is the shoulder, where nobody yet has tried to do a randomized controlled trial on shoulder injury prevention in overuse throwers. That study is ongoing in Oslo now, as you can understand. The second region, where we do not have solid evidence to show that programs work, is for groin injuries, groin problems in football players, where the one randomized controlled trial available failed to show an effect. But maybe there was nothing wrong with that program. Maybe the problem was that they were looking for time loss injuries, as Grete was talking about earlier. They didn't have an instrument to measure all the pain problems and functional deficits or problems that athletes have. So they may have just measured the effect on the tip of the iceberg, and they may have had an effect on the rest of the iceberg. We don't know that yet. But I've saved you all those talks. So the question then is, can we take it from the randomized control trial and make it work in a team, in a real world, or in the whole world? Wouldn't that be fantastic? If we could reduce sports injuries worldwide by 50%, that would be something. Wow, right? But I'll start with a simpler question. Is nationwide adoption possible? And Grete showed some of that data yesterday, so I will not be as detailed as she was, but just to recap. This is a 10-year story from Norway, and it started out when Grete started doing her PhD thesis, and you see the reduction in ACL injuries in the top 3 divisions of female handball. So that's a large number of teams, a large number of players, and in a way, all the really competitive handball players, female handball players in Norway are involved in the study. 600 or so, was it? 950 players involved in the study. So all well, she did her thesis. Then Grete sat down and wrote her thesis and didn't do anything but writing papers and publishing them and so on. And what happened? The injury rate went back up again. And why did it go back up again? Well, the teams weren't really using the program. We weren't really happy with how they were using the program in year 3. There were too few teams that were using it the way they were meant to use it. But then again, we told them, well, if you use this program, we think it may reduce ACL injuries. We didn't know that it would reduce ACL injuries. And then more studies and more research and so on. And then we started counting again in 2004, 2005, realizing that we have a huge problem. The rate is even higher than it was when we first started doing research here. So we have to do something. What we did was produce first a video, then a DVD. And this DVD, by way of sponsorship, was sent to 5,000 coaches around the country. And Grete traveled around Norway to all the coaching clinics and coaching programs and taught the coaches, this is a program you should be doing. And now she could say, this is something that does prevent ACL injuries if you do it, which we didn't know in the beginning. And not only that, but there was a second study that came out at the same time, published in the British Medical Journal, which was the first randomized control study that showed a huge effect, again, in younger handball players, the age group of 15, 16, 17-year-old players. And in 2008, do you know what happened in 2008? We discovered the internet. So instead of sending these DVDs to all the coaches, we produced a website where all the information was available called skadefri.no, injuryfree.no, and a campaign to make people aware of the website with programs for football, programs for handball, and various types of skiing, the top 3 sports in Norway in terms of injuries. This is where more than half of all injuries that come to the hospital occur. And what happened? This happened. So we see now a 5-year sustained reduction to less than 50% across Norway, and Norway is a big country, across the whole country in all the top level team, women's team handball in Norway. So the answer is yes, nationwide adoption is possible. But we have bigger goals than that. We actually want to reach the world. We think it is possible to reach the world. And why do we think it's possible to reach the world? Well, usually the way change occurs is like this. We have some content that we want to get out there. Then I will give this lecture and you guys will learn something, and some of you will say, I don't care. But some of you will be enthusiastic and you will go home and you will have a meeting and you will train the medical staff in your club or in your federation. This is what you should be doing. And then they will be going out regionally and so on and so on and so on until we actually reach the coaches and the players. After we discover the internet, we can skip those two. We can go directly to the coaches and to the players with this content. With appropriate content and appropriate marketing, we can reach all the athletes and all the coaches in the world. And that is our goal. That is our long-term goal. It is to create the world-leading digital resources to prevent injury and illness in players. We have learned through the process that we've been through so far that there is not going to be one tool that's going to fix that or do that, because the target groups are different with different needs. Elite players, younger players, parent coaches, professional coaches, and other stakeholders that need to be involved. Probably the tools have to be tailored to each of these groups so that they reach them in the way they need to reach them. But we have made a start, a small start with a contribution from the IOC, and what you see on this slide is 2 of the athletes participating in the Nanjing Youth Olympic Games in Singapore this year, because about half a year before that we were charged with making a digital program for these athletes for the Youth Olympic Games. But the good thing is it's available to all the youth of the world after, so it's sort of a legacy from the Games. And what we did was we created an app, and that app has tailored exercise programs for 30 summer sports. And before we have the Winter Youth Olympic Games in 2016 in Lillehammer, Norway, we will also add the winter sports with programs for all the winter sports. It has programs for specific body parts, so shoulder, back, groin, hamstrings, and so on and so forth. And it's a fairly simple app where you pick your region or pick your sport, you get your program. Each program has 3 levels, so an easier level, a second level, and a third level, because we know that progression in these exercises is important to keep motivation among coaches and athletes. And each exercise is shown with a video and some simple instructions on how you do it. And you can even send yourself a PDF with the program and print it so you can bring it with you to practice to do it with your athletes. Oops, we need some more sound, some louder sound. And there's nobody to give me more sound. Yes, there is. And this is what you will see when you open the app the first time. Is one of our Olympic gold medalists from London, a handball player, appropriately, I thought, will give the motivational message trying to reach these athletes.
Injury and illness is common in most sports. For an athlete, being injured can be devastating. But injuries can be prevented. Structured warm-up programs reduce injury risk by 50%, but this requires focus before you are injured. To get started, use our new app to learn the most effective exercises. Get set, ready, go.
So that's Lynn, and now it's your turn to get set, ready, go. It's available for free in both Google and Apple App Store. I guess the shoulder exercises that you showed here are more or less all there, shown in the video, and the knee exercises as well. So download, make the internet break down, and have a nice afternoon. On behalf of Grete and myself, thank you very much for your attention.